Emma was a young girl who lived a life of luxury, but also a life of isolation. Her parents were extremely overprotective and never allowed her to associate with anyone, not even her classmates. Every day, Emma's driver would take her to school and bring her back home. As a result, Emma's classmates started calling her a backyard snob because she never interacted with anyone. It wasn't that Emma didn't want to play with her classmates, it's just that her parents never gave her the opportunity. Even in the estate where they lived, Emma felt like she was missing out on so much. She would see her mates playing in the streets and wish she could join them. But every time she asked her parents, they would say no. Emma felt so trapped and alone. She would cry to herself at night, wondering when she would ever be able to interact with people like a normal person. God, this is so unfair, Emma would say to herself. I just want to be able to talk to people and make friends. Why won't my parents let me? Emma felt like she was living in a prison, and she didn't know how much more she could take. Emma was the only child of her rich parents, and they loved her to bits. They provided her with everything she needed: a beautiful home, expensive clothes, and the best education money could buy. But despite all the luxuries, Emma's parents were extremely overprotective. They never allowed her to associate with people, especially men or boys. It was as if they wanted to keep her in a bubble, safe from the outside world. Even Emma's driver was a female, and her maid, Emily, was also a woman. Emily lived with them in the same house, and she was the only person Emma really talked to apart from her parents. Emily seemed kind and gentle, always looking out for Emma's needs and making sure she was comfortable. But, as Emma would soon find out, Emma had another side to her character. One day, Emma sat in her bedroom, deep in thought. She was 18 years now, and she couldn't understand why her parents still treated her like a child. They never let her go out on her own, always insisting that her female driver take her wherever she needed to go. Why are they so overprotective? Emma wondered. I'm not a kid anymore. I can take care of myself. She thought about all the times her parents had stopped her from doing things she wanted to do. They never let her go to parties or hang out with friends. They never even let her walk alone in the neighborhood. It's like they're hiding something from me, Emma thought. But what could it be? She decided that she had had enough. Tomorrow, she would confront her parents and demand to know why they were so overprotective. I'm going to ask them straight out, Emma said to herself. I want to know what's going on. With a newfound determination, Emma went to bed, ready to face her parents the next day. The next morning, Emma went to her parents' bedroom and asked them, Mom, Dad, why can't you both allow me to exercise my freedom? I'm a full-grown woman now. Emma's parents looked at each other, seemingly surprised by her question. Her mother spoke up first. Dear child, you know you're our only child, our only happiness, our only joy. We cannot do without you. We're just doing all these things to protect you from evil thoughts of men and also to give you the privilege to enjoy our wealth. Emma shook her head. No, Mom, Dad, you're not doing me any good. This isn't the best you can give me. Allow me to associate with my mates, allow me to enjoy my youth. That's the only thing that will make me happy. Her parents looked at her sternly. My dear, we know what we're avoiding. Just forget about associating with people. If you want to make friends, you can make female friends, but no male friends. We don't want them anywhere close to you. Emma felt frustrated, but why? Why can't I have male friends? What's wrong with that? Her parents exchanged a nervous glance, and her father spoke up. We'll talk about this later, Emma. Just trust us, we're doing this for your own good. Emma angrily walked back to her bedroom, sat down on her bed, and burst into tears. God, why can't my parents just let me live my life? She cried out, asking God to please change her parents' hearts. Just then, Emily, their housemaid, walked by the room and saw Emma crying. She walked in and sat down beside Emma. Emma, what's wrong? "Why are you crying so early in the morning?" she asked. Concern etched on her face. Emma sniffled and told Emily about her conversation with her parents. Emily listened attentively, a knowing smile spreading across her face. Emma noticed the smile and asked, "Why are you smiling?" "This isn't funny." Emily's smile grew wider. "Emma, my dear, I know why your parents don't want you associating with people. Especially men." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "You know?" "Tell me," she urged, leaning in closer to Emily. Emily hesitated for a moment before speaking. "It's because they don't want you to get pregnant and have a child in their house." Emma's eyes nearly popped out of her head. "Pregnant? I'm not even thinking about that. Let alone doing, you know." Emily nodded. "I know you're not thinking about it, Emma, but the fact is, men can deceive you into getting pregnant. Your parents just want to protect you." Emma's eyes were wide with shock. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Emily leaned in closer to Emma, a sly smile spreading across her face. "See, Emma, let me tell you something. You're a full-grown woman now, and at your age, you should have a boyfriend or girlfriend to make you feel like a woman." Emma looked confused. "I don't understand." Emily chuckled. "I'll make you understand. Your parents are preventing you from being with men, so you won't get pregnant. But I'm going to teach you something that will prevent that from happening." Emma's curiosity was piqued. "What could that be?" Emily looked around the room, making sure no one was listening. She leaned in closer to Emma, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's called women-to-women game. Popularly known as lesbians. If you engage in it, you'll never get pregnant. That's what your parents are trying to avoid." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. Are you into this lesbian?" Emily nodded. "Yes, I am. It's a way for me to protect myself from getting pregnant. And trust me, Emma, you'll really enjoy it." Emma thought for a moment before responding. "Okay, if it's that sweet, I'd love to play the game with you." Emily smiled. "Don't worry, I'll teach you everything. When your parents leave for work, I'll come to your bedroom and show you how it's done." Emma nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Okay, I'll be waiting." Emily stood up and headed to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, leaving Emma to her thoughts. Emma waited anxiously. Emma's parents left for work, and she anxiously waited for Emily in the bedroom. Emily soon arrived, and they started sexing each other. Emma had never done that before, but Emily was a great teacher. As they do it, Emma screamed with excitement. "This thing is so sweet and interesting. I never knew it could be this much fun." Emily smiled. "Wow, you didn't know? Now you know. This is what your parents have been avoiding. They don't want you to have sex with men because they might impregnate you, but since you're doing it with me, your fellow woman, you're safe." Emma nodded, still grinning from ear to ear. "I love it. The thing is so sweet and interesting. I don't want to stop doing." Emily chuckled. "Good. But remember, don't tell your parents about our lesbians. They might stop us from doing it." Emma agreed, and they continued doing it. From that day on, Emma and Emily became inseparable lesbians. They have fun every day, laughing and having the best time together. As they engaged in it, Emma realized she no longer needed to go out and see her friends. She was happy with Emily. "I'm so happy, Emily," Emma said, panting from exhaustion. "I don't need to go out anymore. I'll just stay here and do this with you." Emily smiled, and they both laughed together, enjoying their newfound love. Emma's parents had no idea what was going on behind their backs. They thought everything was normal, with Emma and Emily, the house help, just being together. As time passed, they noticed Emma and Emily were getting closer. They'd see them chatting in Emma's bedroom, or Emma would be in Emily's room, and sometimes they'd be silent. Emma's parents thought Emily was just keeping Emma company, making sure she didn't feel lonely since they didn't let her go out. But what they didn't know was that Emily was introducing Emma to a whole new world. A world they would never approve of. A world that went against everything they believed in. Emma's parents thought they were protecting her from getting pregnant by not letting her date or interact with men. But little did they know, Emma was engaging in something they would consider an abomination. Emily had turned Emma into a passionate woman-to-woman, something her parents would never have allowed if they knew. Emma's parents started treating Emily like a second daughter, providing her with everything she needed. They even increased her salary, thinking she was bringing joy and companionship to Emma. Emma's parents thought Emily was a positive influence on Emma, making her feel less lonely. They had no idea that Emily was secretly introducing Emma to the world of gay, turning her into a passionate lover. Emily, on the other hand, was grateful for Emma's parents' kindness. She was happy to receive everything she needed and be accepted as a part of the family. But deep down, she knew what she was doing wasn't right. She was taking advantage of their kindness, manipulating them to get what she wanted. As time passed, Emma's parents remained oblivious to the fact that Emily was turning Emma into a gay woman. They thought everything was fine, and their daughter was happy and content. As time goes on, Emma and Emily continued to enjoy their secret fun in the bedroom. Emma would scream and shout with excitement, yelling about how sweet the thing was. "If this is so sweet, what would it be like doing with men?" Emma asked, curiosity getting the better of her. Emily chuckled. "No, my dear, you don't need to do it with men. Remember, your parents don't want you to get pregnant. This game is just between us, and I'm a jealous type. You can't do it with any other woman or man, just me." Emma nodded, understanding. "I love doing it with you, Emily. I don't need to do it with anyone else." But then Emma said something that made Emily's expression change. "I think I'd like to try doing it with a man. Just to see what it's like." Emily's face turned red with anger. "Don't you ever do that. If you sleep with a man, we're not sleeping together again." Emma quickly apologized, not wanting to lose her friend and love partner. "I promise I won't sleep with any man. I'm happy sleeping with you, and I don't want to get pregnant." Emily's anger faded, replaced by a smile. "Good. That's how you'll keep your parents happy, by sleeping safe and having fun together." One day, Emma's aunt, Elizabeth, visited their home. Emma's parents, Emma, and even Emily, the house help, welcomed her with open arms. After a while, Elizabeth sat down with her sister, Emma's mom, in her bedroom. They started chatting, catching up on each other's lives. As they talked, Elizabeth mentioned something she had noticed about Emma and Emily. "You know, I've been watching Emma and the house help, and I must say, she's a very nice person. The way she communicates with Emma and plays with her, you're really lucky to have her as a house help." Emma's mom smiled, nodding in agreement. "We are very lucky, indeed. She's been a great companion to Emma, especially after she finished secondary school. Emma was feeling lonely, but Emily has been there for her, keeping her company and making her feel like she has a sister or brother to talk to." Elizabeth smiled, impressed. "That's wonderful. It's not easy to find someone like that, especially in today's world. You're really blessed to have her." The two sisters chatted for a while longer, happy to have each other's company. As Elizabeth continued to stay, she couldn't help but notice that Emma never left the house. At 18, Emma should have been visiting friends, classmates, or at least chatting with neighbors. But Emma didn't do any of those things. She was always with Emily, the house help. Elizabeth's curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to talk to her sister about it. One evening, she called her sister into the guest bedroom, where she stays, and they sat down together. "Hey, sis, can I ask you something?" Elizabeth said, concern etched on her face. I've noticed Emma doesn't really go out or communicate with anyone outside the house. She's always with Emily. Is everything okay? Her sister smiled reassuringly. Oh, I'm just being cautious. You know how men can be these days. I don't want Emma to get deceived or pregnant. We're just trying to keep her safe. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. Safe? Are you sure she's safe staying alone in the house with Emily, your house help? I've seen them together in the bedroom, and it looks odd, her sister chuckled. Don't worry, Emily is kind and nice. She's been great company for Emma. I trust her, and I trust Emma. They're just friends. Elizabeth smiled, but her eyes sparkled with skepticism. If you say so, I just want what's best for Emma, her sister smiled back. I know, dear. You've always been caring. We'll talk more about this later. The two sisters parted ways for the night. But Elizabeth couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. As Elizabeth lay in bed that night, she couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off about Emma and Emily's friendship. She thought to herself, where can you find a house help who's so kind to your child without wanting anything in return? There's something fishy going on. Elizabeth's curiosity was piqued, and she decided to extend her stay from 1 week to 2. She wanted to get to the bottom of Emma and Emily's true identity. I don't think their friendship is ordinary, Elizabeth thought to herself. My sister and her husband are always busy, but I'm going to keep a close eye on them. Before drifting off to sleep, Elizabeth prayed, "Oh God, please help me find out who Emily really is. I want to know what's going on between her and Emma." With a determined mind, Elizabeth fell asleep, ready to start her investigation in the morning. 2 days later, on a sunny Sunday, Emma's mother and Elizabeth were lounging by the swimming pool, chatting and discussing important issues. Enjoying the warm weather, Elizabeth suddenly got up, remembering she had left her phone inside. "Excuse me, sis, I'll be right back. I need to grab my phone." As she entered the house, Elizabeth heard a strange noise coming from inside. It sounded like someone was having a great time, laughing and shouting with excitement. Elizabeth's curiosity was piqued, and she stood still, trying to figure out what was going on. The noise seemed to be coming from Emma's bedroom, so Elizabeth quietly made her way to the bathroom door. She peeked through the door, and her eyes widened in shock. There, in the bedroom were Emma and Emily, the house help, having fun together. They were completely absorbed in it, laughing and shouting with joy. Elizabeth's mind raced back to her earlier suspicions. How can this be? Elizabeth thought to herself. I knew it. I knew there was something fishy about those two. Elizabeth quickly ran back to the swimming pool, eager to share what she had just seen with her sister. Sis, you won't believe what I just saw. Elizabeth exclaimed, out of breath. A few seconds after Elizabeth shared what she saw, Emma's mom couldn't wait any longer. She rushed back to the bedroom with Elizabeth, determined to see things for herself. As they burst through the bedroom door, Emma's mom was shocked at what she saw. Her daughter, Emma, and her trusted house help, Emily, were having fun together, laughing and having a great time. Emma's mom was horrified. "Emma, my house help, how could you do this to my daughter?" she shouted, tears streaming down her face. She was so distraught that she fainted, falling to the floor. Elizabeth, Emily, and Emma rushed to her side, bringing water and a hand fan to try and revive her. After a few moments, Emma's mom came to. Still crying. Her sister, Elizabeth, tried to comfort her. "This isn't something to cry about, sis. We need to fix this together." Emma's mom was beside herself. "I was trying to protect my daughter from the outside world, and now my own house help has corrupted her," she exclaimed, anger and sadness mixing in her voice. She turned, shouting, "Emily, get to the living room with my daughter, now." Emma and Emily rushed to the living room, where Elizabeth and Emma's mother were seated. their faces filled with fear and uncertainty. Emma's mother turned to Emily, her voice shaking with anger and disappointment. "How could you do this to me? After everything we've done for you, taking you in like a second daughter, increasing your salary, you repay us by corrupting our daughter." Emily broke down in tears, pleading for forgiveness. "Madam, I'm sorry, please find it in your heart to forgive me. It was never my intention to hurt you or your family," Emily explained, still sobbing. "I was scared of getting pregnant if I dated men. I didn't want to shame my mother or make her life miserable. So, I decided to have fun with your daughter instead. I knew you were protecting her from men, and I thought this was a safer way." Emily continued, "When I came into your house, I saw how much you cared for Emma, and I didn't want to ruin that. But I was desperate, and I made a mistake. I'm truly sorry, madam." The room fell silent, with Emma's mother and Elizabeth staring at Emily in shock and disappointment. Emma looked on, unsure of what would happen next. After a few minutes of silence, Emma spoke up, her voice trembling. She turned to her mother, tears welling up in her eyes. "Mother, if you had allowed me to associate with my friends, none of this would have happened," Emma said, her voice cracking. "If you had let me communicate with people, even our neighbors, I wouldn't have felt so lonely and isolated." Emma's mother looked at her, shocked by her daughter's words. Emma continued, "You were protecting me from something I never even knew existed. I didn't know what I was missing until Emily came into my room and told me about it." Emma's tears flowed freely now. "I was so curious, and it was fun doing it with Emily. We kept doing it together. And I never thought it would hurt you this much." The room fell silent again, with all eyes on Emma. Her mother, Elizabeth, and Emily all looked at her. Emma's mother finally spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "Emma, my dear, I don't know what to say. I was only trying to protect you." The room erupted into tears, with all four women sobbing uncontrollably. The tension and emotions had finally boiled over. After a few moments of silence, Emma's mother spoke up, her voice firm but sad. "Emily, my dear, I'm afraid you'll have to leave my house. You've broken the trust I had in you." Emily broke down in tears, falling to her knees and begging Emma's mother to forgive her. "Please, Ma, forgive me. I promise it won't happen again." Emma's mother's expression softened, and she said, "My dear, I've forgiven you. I have a soft heart, and I hold nothing against you. I blame myself for not being more aware of what was going on." Emily's tears turned to wails as she thought about leaving the only home she had known for years. "Madam, if you sack me, how will I take care of my mother and siblings? This job is my only hope for survival." Emma's mother's eyes filled with compassion as she helped Emily up from the floor. "My dear, I'll give you 5 million naira to start a business and take care of your family. But you cannot stay here anymore." Emily's tears stopped abruptly as she stared at Emma's mother in shock. 5 million naira? Just for me? She opened her eyes wide, shouting, "Jesus!" Emily quickly wiped away her tears, a huge smile spreading across her face. She hugged Emma's mother tightly, tears of joy welling up in her eyes. "God will bless you and your family for doing this for me. You gifted me, despite my wrongdoings." Emma's mother smiled, saying, "Amen." Emily quickly ran to her room, packed her bags, and prepared to leave the house. Emma's mother handed her a check of 5 million naira, and Emily's eyes widened in surprise. "Thank you, Ma," she said, tears of gratitude welling up in her eyes. She was sad to leave Emma and the family she had grown to love, but she was also grateful for the opportunity to start anew. As Emily left the house, Emma fell to her knees, begging her mother for forgiveness. "Please, Mom, forgive me for what I've done," she said, tears streaming down her face. Her mother's expression softened, and she said, "My dear daughter, I hold nothing against you. It was our fault, your father's, and mine. We overprotected you, and that's why you ended up doing what you did with Emily," Emma's mother continued. "But promise me you'll never do this again." "This thing you did with Emily, it's not right," Emma nodded eagerly, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Mom, I promise. I'll never do it again," her mother smiled. "From today on, you're free to make your own friends, associate with whoever you want. Just remember, no more of this woman-to-woman game." Emma nodded again, and the two shared a warm hug. Elizabeth joined in, hugging them both tightly. After a while, Emma's mother turned to Elizabeth and said, "Thank you, dear sister. You cared for us, and we appreciate it." Elizabeth smiled. "If I don't care for my own family, who will?" The two sisters hugged again, and then Emma's mother looked up, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Mothers, please give your children the freedom they need. Don't lock them up in the house, or they might start thinking of things they shouldn't." She paused, collecting her thoughts. "An idle mind is the devil's workshop, and that's exactly what happened in my home. A word is enough for the wise."